I be trying to figure out what's the best icebreaker for a judge. Like, how do you break the ice? I know I asked you earlier, like, what's the most annoying question or thing that you get asked? Could you kind of break that down for us? Like, what's one thing you just don't like being asked as a judge, if they're even...
Yeah, well, it's not really a particular question. It's just, I understand why people do it, but like they'll message me on Facebook, either my personal Facebook account or sometimes, because I had a Facebook account when I was running for judge, and I'll get a message on that, and they'll ask me either some kind of a question about what's going on in a case that's in our court, which I absolutely cannot talk about.
Yeah.
Or they'll just ask me some random legal questions about things that, like, I don't have any knowledge of, because that's not the area of law that I practice in. Like, it just could be taxes or something like that. And
you're like, I don't even do that department.
No, judges don't know every law. Just like attorneys don't know every law. You have your areas of practice where you're pretty good, pretty familiar with all the laws in that area of practice. But even then, you still have to look the law up. But that's the good thing about the law. It's written, so you can always look it up.
So with those type of questions that you're being asked, what's the biggest misconception about being a judge? Like, do everybody think y'all are just kind of forward, mean, like straight to the book? That's my assumption of judges. Like, even when we first met, I was like, oh, he's a nice judge.
Yeah, I think people think that we're serious all the time, and we're not. Believe me, there's a lot of joking and things like that goes on with the staff and everything, because you have to, at least in our area of the law, which is family law, we get a lot of cases where there's sadness and a lot of high emotions, and to keep ourselves from suffering some depression or secondhand trauma and things like that, you got to try to be lighthearted in the moments that you can with your staff. So, you got to try to do that. Otherwise, it really gets to you.
Do you ever watch like courtroom shows on TV and be like, that is not how this works?
Oh, yeah. I like, one of the biggest things I like on TV is whenever it's a trial. Well, Law and Order, it's a great show.
Great show.
But first off, the defendant almost always takes the stand in Law and Order. And that just doesn't happen in real life. Because they always take the stand, and then the prosecutor gets them riled up, and then they say something on the stand that, just sinks their ship. And that's why defendants don't get on the stand, because you never know what you could get trapped into saying. But the other thing, and this applies to any kind of trial, not just criminal stuff, is the trial will be going on, an attorney will ask a question or whatever, and somebody will go, objection. And that's all they say. Well,
no reason for it at all.
Yeah, in court, I always say, what's your reason for the objection? Because I have to know exactly why they're saying they're objecting to be able to rule on it, because they might be objecting because it's hearsay. They might be objecting because it's not relevant. It's just depends.
Plus, it looks good in movies when you say objection.
Yeah,
like,
and
say something
I kind of understand why they do it. They don't have them explain it, because then you get down into minutia, and that might be kind of boring for people. But it's kind of funny on TV to see just objection overruled.
Yeah, right.
You don't even know why they objected exactly.
Do people get nervous around you even outside the courtroom?
I think so. My judicial secretary, she always reminds me of the first time she saw me. This was, I think it was probably when I was a public defender coming up into the court to work. And she said, when she saw me, she said, why is that guy mad? Because she said, I just had this mad look on my face. And I guess sometimes I do, and I'm not mad about anything. I guess I just sometimes get a stern look, and I don't realize I do, but apparently I do. So I think that plays into it. And then, once people find out you're a judge, they kind of watch what they do or say a little more. But
I know both times I met you, the first time I didn't know you were a judge, but your presence and demeanor, I was like, this guy does something with law. The way you approached me. And then the second time we actually met up, that was the question I was going to ask you. Has anybody ever recognized you in public and changed their behavior? I know I did. When we had lunch and you came out, I was like, let me go ahead and pull my pants up and make sure, but I think that just comes with the title of your job because you have to be serious because you're dealing with cases.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because the case that's in front of you might be the 20th case you've heard that week, but it's that person's only case and it's extremely important to them. So you have to make it extremely important to you. It's not just another cog in the wheel going through the system. Each case matters to each individual, and therefore you got to make it matter to you as well.
And you being in family court, you definitely prioritize every single one.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I saw you enjoy like fishing and hiking and camping. What's your place away from work?
Anytime I can get out in the woods.
Yeah.
There's something cool about being able to put everything you need to survive and live for 3 or 4 days in a pack on your back and just walk out into the woods by yourself and just hike and camp. And
you do that type of...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I take everything I need to sleep and cook food and everything. Just head out into the woods. Usually I try to do a trail that'll be anywhere between 20 to 40 miles and do that over a weekend and just be out there. And I don't know, you'd think it would get boring after a while, but if you're hiking for 8 hours, by the time you get to camp, you're pretty beat. Then you got to set up your camp and everything. So by the time you get all set up, you're just ready to relax and just listen to the birds and the nature and everything. And then when it's time to go to bed, you're just out.
Does it usually help you decompress after like big cases? Like that's something that you like to do? Like this was intense. I need to go hiking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It makes you realize how small everything is whenever you see how big the rest of the world is. But I thought about that whenever I thought about the astronauts up in space, looking down on the Earth. And I think one of them said something like, this is the only ship we have. There's no lifeboat off of this ship, so we have to take care of it.
Man.
Because this is all we got. So I think about that when I'm out in the woods too, especially if I see some trash or something. Because sometimes you're out on the trail and you'll see trash and stuff, and you're like, who wants to come out into the woods, spend time in nature, get away, and then they just bring trash out and just leave it?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
I don't understand. But
so you appreciate nature as well, so you pick up. Mm-hmm. That's fair. I like that. So what's one simple thing in life that genuinely makes you happy?
I think just quiet time with a cup of coffee, really. And if I can do that in the woods, that's all the better.
So you like being outside?
Oh yeah. I really do. I've camped in snowstorms and rainstorms and windstorms. I think I went through a tornado one time at one campsite in Pennsylvania, I swear. But
you say that so calmly. Yeah. Like in a snowstorm, you went camping in the snow?
Oh yeah. I've got what are called hot tents. So you can actually take a wood burning stove with you and put it inside your tent to warm your tent up. So you gotta keep up with the wood and chopping wood and all that stuff, but processing the firewood and everything to feed the stove, but it keeps your tent warm. So it'll be 70 degrees in your tent and it's 22 degrees outside or whatever.
Wow.
First time I used a hot tent, I didn't understand how to control the heat from the stove very good, and it got up to like 102 degrees in my tent. So
see, I was in there warm.
Yeah, so I had to open up all the doors and everything, and yeah, but it's fun just challenging yourself.
So when you're out there, just using that as an example, you say you like the sounds of nature, but are you listening to any music? And if so, what music are you listening to?
Honestly, I don't. I'm pretty much. I used to listen to music when I worked out.
Okay.
Because I try to work out 4 to 5 days a week, and then I listen to music in the vehicle. But otherwise, I pretty much don't listen to music. And when I'm out in the woods, I don't listen to anything. I'm just one of the reasons because when you're hiking, I want to be able to hear around me in case I don't know what's out there. You never know what's out there. And I just like hearing the sounds around me to be sure that nothing can sneak up on me or anything like that.
So being aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Okay. So stepping outside of nature, what keeps you connected to Stark County after all these years you've worked for them?
Connected to the position or just Stark County in general?
Just Stark County in general.
I think it's a great county because one of the things I realized about Stark County when I was campaigning is just how big it is.
Yeah.
When you got to drive all over the county to go to different events, you realize how large this county is. But at the same time, when you're going to all these things and you're meeting people, it's got a very small feel to it. You know, I've never been a very outgoing person. And when I ran for judge, I had to step out of my comfort zone and become more outgoing because you have to. It's mandatory to be able to communicate with people and
part of campaign.
Tell them why you're running, why you're the best person for the job. And I always thought whenever I was campaigning, whenever I was thinking about campaigning, I thought, man, this is going to be terrible, going out and having to talk to people and, you know, but people were so nice. I honestly can't think of a single negative person that I ran into in 2 campaigns that I ran to become judge. So it's a great town, great community. There's a lot of collaboration in Stark County with the different or nonprofit organizations and the government entities and whatnot. Like our court has some good relationships with some nonprofits that we can steer families toward to try to get them assistance and things like that. So,
okay. One last question before we go on the break, and this is a fun question. What's your go-to comfort food?
Ooh. You know,
You can make it outside too if you want.
Honestly, my favorite food is Mexican food.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind?
I like chimichangas.
Me too.
But I used to call it chorizo, polo chicken.
Oh, yeah.
But I realized.
See, you're saying it wrong.
Pollo. Yeah, I was like, pollo. Okay.
You were saying polio chicken.
Yeah. But there's a pollo con crema and then there's a pollo chorizo. And I like chorizo sausage. So it's like the cheesy chicken with chorizo. That's really good too.
Okay. Cool, man. Like this. As you're watching, we have Mr. Matt Kreitzer on the show today, hanging out with us. Glad you got to fill us in. I gotta go camping with you one time, man. I'm not really a camping guy.
Hey, you should.
I trust you too. We'll be good.
Yeah.
Might show me some things.
And you know, when I camp, there's 2 different things. You camp or you hike. So camping, you can take all kinds of stuff with you because you're pretty close to your vehicle.
Okay.
So you don't have to lug a bunch of stuff through the woods. But when you hike, you're carrying everything with you that you need for miles. Like I said, sometimes the longest trail I did was a 42-mile trail. And one of the days I hiked, I did 17 miles that day. You can't carry a whole lot of weight with you when you got to hike that many miles. So the food I take whenever I do those types of trips is dehydrated, what's called backpacking meals. So basically, you just boil water and you add it to the food, and it rehydrates it. But when I camp, I take actual food and I cook meals out in the woods because I like cooking on the fire and things like that. So.
Well, at least I know I'm safe when I go camping with Mr. Kreitzer. So, all right, man. So we're here for this great episode today. You gonna stick around with us for a minute?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, man. We'll be right back. Episode 199. Jéan P the MC, Matt Kreitzer. Say what you mean. Peace.
Say what you mean. Mean what you say. I'm from the 330. Where them boys don't play. Say what you mean. Mean what you say. I'm from the 330. Where them boys don't play. From the northwest to the northeast. Say my name once and they know it's me. Southeast to the southwest. No arguments. Yeah, I got next. Jéan P.
Episode 199 of the Say What You Mean podcast. Jéan P the MC, Mr. Matt Kreitzer. Matt, they want to talk to me about Drake and Kendrick Lamar, and it caused me to ask you. I know you say you don't listen to music. What little bit of music, like no songs, like?
Well, like I said, I'll listen in my vehicle when I'm just driving somewhere.
Okay.
But I've got a thumb drive that I have. It's probably about 2,000 songs on it. It's a mix of like 80s metal, 70s metal, rap, hip hop, country.
Give me some
music.
examples.
So it's more old school stuff like Slick Rick, Body Dottie, Slick Rick, some Fat Boys, a few Fat Boys songs on
Okay.
there. I loved Fat Boys when I was a kid. You know, all the beatboxing, the human beatbox, and all that.
I like that movie they did, The Disorderlies. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You got a good playlist
DMC,
on there.
of course.
I'm going camping with that, man.
And then I've got up to Dre, Too Short, some Too Shorts on there.
Matt,
No, I shouldn't say Too Short.
you got some Too Short on there?
Some of his stuff is a little graphic.
Hey, man, it's all good, man.
But yeah, you know, when I was younger, I was.
Now, that'd be a cool story. I went camping with Judge Matt Kreitzer, and we listened to Too Short and Run DMC. That'd be a good time, man.
Then old school country like Randy Travis and
Okay.
Pink Black and what's his name? Garth Brooks.
Garth Brooks.
No.
Can't forget Garth Brooks, man.
Yeah.
He was like the man at one point in time, like a big deal.
Yep.
I had to get that out the way, man, because I'm like, we can't talk music and you not listen to nothing. I know you got some music.
Oh yeah, and then Metallica. Metallica was always my favorite band growing up. You know, I kind of stopped listening to a lot of their stuff after the Black Album, but that's kind of like where I just phased out of listening to music
Okay.
on a regular basis. Like I would listen to it when I work out or when I'm in my vehicle, but aside from that, I generally don't. I don't know why. I don't know why I don't listen to music.
Yeah, I hook you up, man. We got your
But,
playlist right.
Hey, I listened to your CD for like probably 12 times in a row.
Oh!
That thing is awesome.
Thank you, man.
It is.
See,
It is.
we out playing camping now.
It is.
Thank you, man.
Say 100% true, man. That's,
I appreciate
like,
that.
Dang, man, this is all right. Here.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Well, glad I got that out the way. Episode 199 of the Say What You Mean podcast. Jéan P the MC, Matt Kreitzer. Before we get into the interview, we do got to pay some bills. Sponsor time here. Our sponsor being the Hub Art Factory. Shout out to Tim Carmody. Matt, what you think of the space, man?
This is cool. Like, there's so much stuff to look at. Everywhere you turn your head, there's a different expression.
It's always
Art.
something here.
Yeah, that thing right there is obviously eye-catching.
I think
3
that's-
eyeballs. I'm not sure what that
I
is,
think
but
Tim
it's cool.
Eakin did that. Shout out to Tim Eakin. I think
Yeah.
he did that art piece back there. You never know what you're going to walk into here at the Hub.
Yeah.
So, okay. Cool, man. I think you said you've been here a couple times or once or twice.
When I did the Leadership Stark County program, I think we came through this building and a couple other buildings that had to do with arts and whatnot.
Okay, cool. So, Matt, man, let's start from the top. Where you from? Where you representing, man?
Minerva.
Minerva.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved around a lot when I was a kid, but we always ended up back in the Minerva area, so I consider that to be my hometown.
Okay.
Because my grandma lived in a little town outside of Minerva called Baird, but Baird it's basically part of Minerva. Sorry about that.
Okay.
It's basically part of Minerva, so yeah, Minerva.
All right. So, what kind of kid were you growing up?
Boy, I don't know. You know, when I was a kid, I thought I was pretty cool, I guess. But as an adult looking back, I think I was probably an annoying kid. I think I was probably pretty annoying. I could see some of the things that I used to do that would be annoying to me as an adult now, you know. But, you know, when you're a kid, you're a kid. You got to give kids grace to be annoying.
So, what made you an annoying kid? I was going to ask you, were you always serious or funny? But, you know, you were in between.
Well, like, we would just do things on purpose to annoy one of my uncles in particular, because it was easy to get him riled up.
Oh,
Me and
yeah.
my cousins, we would, yeah.
Just mess around with them all the time. Okay. So, let me ask you this. When did your interest in law, like, first begin? Like, when did that kind of...
I don't know exactly. I think I was always impressed by law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So I always thought that was an admirable career, an admirable thing, to put the safety of yourself at risk for other people, and to help your community.
Yeah.
But again, I also liked TV shows like Law and Order and things like that. And sometimes I was a little argumentative as a kid. So I was told before, you know, oh, you should be a lawyer someday. But I never thought that was realistic for me. But I did think that I could maybe become a police officer or something like that at some point in time. But in high school, I just did enough to get by for the most part. You know, I really wasn't big on education and Didn't try real hard in high school up until about 11th grade. Then at 11th grade, I realized I was selling myself short, that I could do better than I was doing.
Yeah.
I was just being lazy. So I applied myself, got straight A's, got on the Gold Key Honor Society, graduated with a good GPA. But even then, I was like, I'm not going to go to college because I just didn't want to go to college. I was done with school. But I was working at a factory at that time, Minerva Dairy, making cheese and butter. I can still make cheese and butter if you want me to.
Let's do it.
All I got to do is get some cultures, and I'm on it. I know I can do it. But I worked there for about 3 years, and it was a very hard job, very back-breaking physical labor. Actually did injure my back at that job, and I decided, you know what, maybe I should go to college. Plus, my friend's dad was always telling us that we should go to college.
Yeah.
So I decided I would go into the FBI because I thought that would be really cool to be an FBI agent. So that was my plan, was to go into the FBI. So I majored in criminal justice studies and I minored in paralegal studies at Kent State with the idea of going into the FBI.
Okay. What inspired you to study criminal justice, like at Kent State, and why law school specifically?
Well, so again, I just thought that being in law enforcement was an admirable profession. And I thought there was something interesting about the investigative side of it, figuring things out. But when I was at Kent State and I did the paralegal program, the minor, they required me to do an internship as part of that program. And I did my internship at the legal department of the Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority.
Okay.
And it was through that internship that I got to hang out with attorneys. I got to see the practice of law. I got to go to court. I got to watch hearings. I got to meet judges. And I also met some of the law school professors from the University of Akron because they would come down to the housing authority to do Section 8 administrative hearings. And I really fell in love with the practice of law. So, I decided that I wanted to go to law school instead of being an FBI agent. One, because I wouldn't have to worry about getting shot at, presumably, like I would as an FBI agent. And the FBI, the one drawback was that it's kind of like the military where they tell you, hey, we want you to relocate your family to this area, and you just have to because they assign you to different
It's just what you have to do, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to stay in this area. So I went to law school at the University of Akron.
So, you worked in multiple areas, like public defender's office, child support enforcement, private practice. What did each role teach you in those experiences?
The private practice, it taught me how not to give up because it was tough. I was over in the Salem area. I didn't know anybody over there, had no connections whatsoever. And I was trying to open up my own practice. I was working at Minerva Dairy at the time, and I just couldn't get a good practice going. I was barely making enough to pay the office expenses. So my real money that I was paying my household expenses with and buying groceries with was coming from my job at the factory. And I was sharing an office space with some people, a couple of attorneys over there. And probably about 2 years, no, about a year and a half maybe into that, the guy who owned the building, who was the main partner in the law office, he came to the office one day and said, hey, I'm retiring. Me and my family were moving to North Carolina, and I'm selling this building, so you all have to get out. So then I lost my office space, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. Didn't have enough money to rent an office space, so I started practicing law out of my house in Sebring, Ohio, and just struggling in general to get that going. And it was in February of 2006, or it was in 2006 I interviewed with the public defender's office, didn't get the job as a public defender, continued to practice out of my house, struggling. Then I got a call back in 2007 from the public defender asking me if I was still interested in working at their office. And I said yes, because I was able to be a full-time attorney at that time, and then I would be able to have benefits for my family. So, I there were so many times I felt like just giving up, because I went to school, went through all this education, got all these student loans, and here I am just not even making any money as an attorney, basically.
Right.
All I was doing was working at the factory that I decided to go to school to get away from. But when I got the job at the public defenders, everything just turned around for me.
Did that job as a public defender change how you see the justice system?
I don't think it did. I've never really had a jaded view of the justice system. But one thing it did do was really open my eyes as to why I wanted to be an attorney, and because when I went to law school, I always had this generic goal of just helping people. And I never knew what that meant until I became a public defender.
Right.
And I started working with the children and families, because as a public defender in the family court, I represented juveniles that were charged with breaking the law, and I represented parents who had their children removed from their house because of allegations of dependency, neglect, and abuse. And then I represented people on contempt of court, usually for not paying child support. And just working with the children and the families and seeing the circumstances that a lot of them were going through. Most of them, of course, because I was a public defender, most of them couldn't afford an attorney. They were low-income families. They were struggling with housing issues, with food insecurity, clothing insecurity. Oftentimes there was domestic violence in the home. There might be substance abuse in the home, mental health issues in the home. And, when I grew up, my biological father was not involved in my life. My stepfather was a domestically violent, abusive alcoholic, who didn't work and didn't let my mom work. So we were on public assistance. So I came from a similar background where there was the substance abuse, there was domestic violence, there was poverty in my home. And I could feel, I could empathize, I could understand the situation that they were going through. And with my position as a public defender, I felt like I could try to, at least in some small way, help them get connected with service providers and things like that in the community to maybe help address the issues that keep bringing the kid back into court or the family back into court.
What does becoming a judge actually feel like emotionally? Because you mentioned, you can relate to these experiences working in family court, but what does it feel like emotionally as a judge? Because you kind of have to keep a game face, per se, in the court of law. So what does that feel like for you emotionally?
To hear the types of cases that I do?
Yeah, just doing the job.
It can be tough because our court in particular, when people are coming in there, things are generally not going well.
Right.
People are fighting about custody. They're fighting about parenting time. They're fighting over property, debts, and things like that. Or in the case of a juvenile, they're defending themselves with the help of their attorney. But there's always issues that go deep into the family in those cases. And then delinquency or dependency, neglect, and abuse cases are the cases where you hear about kids being abused and neglected and things like that. And they're all sad things. So you have to be able to compartmentalize these things and kind of store them in a separate part of your brain, I guess, for lack of a better word, so that you're not always thinking about them and letting them affect you emotionally.
Yeah.
And I think part of just growing up the way I did, I kind of developed that ability early on in my life. Because there was a lot of times where I just wished I was out of the circumstances that I was in.
Yeah.
And to get through, you just have to be able to put that to a different part of your brain and try to think of more positive things. And that's what you have to be able to do whenever you hear these types of cases all the time, because there is such a thing as secondary trauma just from hearing sad stories and difficult things all the time, every day. You can start to internalize that, and it can affect you emotionally. And then, of course, you have to take your time off work when you can. I was always guilty of not taking vacations and not taking time off work, and that's one of the things that the judges, when you become a judge, they send you to judge school. You got to go through.
Like you didn't go through all that enough.
Yeah. You got to go through 2 weeks of just learning what it is like to be a judge, basically.
2 weeks, and it takes years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like just kind of refreshing. Like.
Yeah. So I became a judge because I was a magistrate for 11 years before I became a judge, and magistrate's almost like a judge. Magistrates do the same thing in court that judges do. So I had to go through training to become a magistrate. Well, then I had to go through this training again to be a judge, and that's one of the things that they tell you to do is make sure you take your time off because you need that break. So I'm making a conscious effort to schedule time away, and that's when I like to get out in the woods.
Yeah. How important is empathy in your line of work?
Oh man, I think it's critical. You have to be able to understand where people are coming from, I think.
Yeah.
To understand people's motivations and maybe why they're doing the things that they're doing, especially kids.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you're
sure.
sitting in judgment of kids, it certainly helps to try to understand their motivations and why they might think the way that they do and why they might act the way that they act, and understand that kids oftentimes have an issue with impulse control and an issue with long-term thinking. Like right. they think like in the here and now, and they don't think like the classic example is kids who just are truant all the time, missing school, skipping school, not going in, not doing well.
They call it crashing out.
Yeah, they don't understand. They don't understand that when they're 35,
exactly,
they're gonna look back on that and be like, man, if they don't graduate and get their diploma, they're gonna look back on that and be, man, I could have done so much better, and they're gonna regret it. But kids typically don't think that far down the road.
They have to. My thing with kids and working with youth and things like that is they got to bump their head to finally for it to make sense to them. And that leads to my next question. What advice would you give young people who kind of feel lost right now?
That's a good question. Well, listen to the adults. I mean, really.
Real talk.
As long as you have responsible adults.
100%. You can't listen to all of them now. Yeah.
Because there are some that are just going to lead you down the wrong path. But, you know, as a kid, you think you know everything. And your parents are just old and just, what do they know? You know, it's like when my friend's dad was always telling us, man, you guys should go to college. You shouldn't work in this factory and beat yourselves up and all this stuff. And my thought was, what do you know? You know, I was like,
right.
Hey, what do you know? I'm not going to college. What do you know about that? I'm working here. I'm doing good. Well, he was right. You know, he was 100% right. And, you know, people who've lived through it, have done it, have experienced it. You need to take their word for things when you're a kid. And also, you know, pause. You always got to pause. When you're thinking about doing something, pause for a moment and think, is this going to improve my situation or make it worse? That's one of the biggest things that kids fail to do is take that breath and say, hey, I got this choice. How's this going to affect me down the road?
Exactly. Think about it first.
Yeah.
I think a lot of youth, I joked and said crash out. That's a normal thing that people say. And I also understand, like, thinking about it first, because sometimes your emotions can have you do things that you regret, versus when you think about it first with some logic. All right, let me internalize this. I don't think a lot of our young people know how to do that. Yeah. They just go off a reaction first. It's like, well, think about this.
Or, you know, don't go along with people just to go along with people just because they're your friends. If they're the real friends,
they'll tell you the truth.
You can say no to them and they'll be like, all right, like I don't drink. I've never done drugs, don't smoke cigarettes or anything, but all of my friends at some point in time did those things, and they all would have parties and things like that and want me to get involved in it, you know, but they respected whenever I said no. They're like, all right, you know, if I got to go to work in the morning, all right, well then that's cool. You know, they didn't stop being my friend just because I 100%. Didn't want to hang out and party with them all the time. They respected what I wanted and what I was trying to do with my life and the goals that I had. So,
and it seems like now in a generation of where we follow, whether it be on social media, whether it be in our personal life, it's so important to me to stand outside the box, you know, like ironically enough, I'm telling the kids, remix the narrative, you know, because there's just this narrative about black and brown people, young people, that they don't know how to lead the path. They just do what everyone else does. And I tell them, like, you don't have to do what everybody else does. Sometimes finding out your own path, it really sets you apart. Versus when you're doing everything that everybody else does, it's not original. Nothing's new under the sun. But when you make your own path, you make your own path. And I wish we would enforce that more with younger people. I think that's so important. So I want to ask you this before we're going to break. If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say it's going to be all right. Because like I said, whenever I was young and I remember I came home one time from just being out with my friends. And as soon as I came in the door, my dad kicked me in the stomach really hard because I was out running the streets, he said. And I fell to the ground and I crawled back into the bathroom in our trailer. And my brother runs out, and he yells at my dad and stuff. And my mom gets on him, and I just hear them fighting about it. But I was in the bathroom, and I was just laying in there, like kind of balled up, just kind of crying, just being like, I just want to be out of here, man. I just want to be done with this. This is wrong, you know. But if I could just go back and put my hand on my shoulder and say, it's going to be all right, man. You'll get through all of this. And as a almost 54-year-old man, I can look back on that and I can be sad for that kid, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to change it because I think it makes me better at the job that I do now, the things that I've been through.
Especially being relatable and understandable, you know, like these kids need help. And you were one of those kids who needed that help, you know, so I respect that answer, man. Thanks, Matt. So what I want to do is I want to take a break and do a section called P's Positive Point, where you say a quote that means something to you, and I say a quote that means something to me, and I have a few more questions. So could we do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man, we'll be right back. Episode 199, Say What You Mean Podcast, Jéan P the MC, Matt Kreitzer. Peace. Episode 199 of the Say What You Mean podcast. Jéan P the MC, Judge Matt Kreitzer. I gotta shake your hand, man. Thank you for being on this show.
Absolutely. I
appreciate you, man. It's always been fun. What's a Sunday like for you usually? Like, what you usually doing on a Sunday?
Usually I'll exercise. I'll get up and I'll do some cardio in the morning. I try to do like 45 minutes to an hour on the treadmill, and then in the afternoon I'll lift weights and do another 30 minutes of cardio. But in between, try to catch up on some shows that I like to watch. And now that the weather's getting nice, I'm probably going to go and start doing some target shooting, guns and things like that.
Oh yeah, because you shoot with my aunt, umpteenth rounds, like the flow minister. Okay.
And then mow grass, you know, usually got to get the grass mowed on the weekend. And if there's anything I have to do out in the garage.
What shows you watching? What you binge watching?
Let's see. What was a good show that I watched recently? Boy, there's so many that I watched. There's so many. I usually have like 3 or 4 that I'm watching all at the same time. There's this one on Netflix now that I want to watch. I'm going to see if my wife will watch it with me. It's called The Burrows or something. I started like
watching it yesterday.
Did you? Okay.
Insane.
It looks like it's interesting, but I like sci-fi stuff.
Okay.
I like dramas. Any of that stuff. And I like I watch a lot of YouTube videos on hiking and backpacking and, you know, the different cooking. I like watching cooking shows.
You can learn a lot on YouTube.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Are you a TikTok person?
No, I don't have TikTok.
YouTube is enough.
Yeah.
YouTube University is what they call it. You learn so much on there. And I know, imagine with you know hiking and camping, you probably see all kind of cool videos.
Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of neat stuff. And anytime I'm thinking about making a purchase, I look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Try to get a review, see what it's like and things like that. So.
Okay. Cool. So, Matt, this part of my podcast is called P's Positive Point, where I have my guests say a quote that means something to them. And do you have a quote that you can share with us?
I do. And actually, it's not a quote from a famous person. It's somebody local.
It could be anything you want.
Yeah, it's somebody local. It's a young man. And I actually heard the quote this year, at the beginning of this year. It was during a speech he was giving at the Martin Luther King event at the Peel Center.
Okay.
Young man's name is Jéan Dickerson.
I know who that is. Yeah, we got to get him on the show.
Yeah, he was giving a speech, and it was doing a fantastic job on this speech. And the reason this resonated with me is because it deals with kids, and the work I do deals with kids. And in his speech, he was talking about, the gist of the speech was what adults in the community could do to help kids. And he said that kids don't need louder voices. They need listening ears. And to me, that means that the adults in their lives need to not just be like, oh, they're just kids. What are they talking about? They don't know anything.
Yep.
They need to really listen to kids, because the kids that feel like they're not listened to are the kids that will act out. They will seek other people that they think will listen to them. And oftentimes those people may not be the best people. So I really thought about that for a long time after he said it. I was like, man, that just makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Especially in the kids I see in delinquencies and the kids I see and in custody cases. These kids are just trying to get their parents maybe to stop fighting, and the parents just aren't listening.
Yeah.
The kids, I had one case, it was a dependency, neglect, and abuse case where this girl was just trying to get her parents, telling her parents, I'm depressed, I have anxiety, I need help. She tried to commit suicide a couple times. She tried to get them to get her into counseling, and they just wouldn't listen to her. And it was sad. Ultimately, it ended up in her being removed from the home. That and other reasons, but that was one of the reasons, was because they weren't addressing her mental health needs, and she was crying out to them, I need help, and they just didn't listen.
That you saying that right there is why I love gravitating into this world of working with youth, is because we write them off as not understanding because of their age. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when a kid tells you something, I also believe sometimes the youth can be smarter than adults. Like the young lady you mentioned was crying out for help, and they just kind of wrote her off. A major reason being because of her age and that she's young and doesn't know anything. But you have to listen to these kids because they see everything, they take everything in, they'll tell you what you're not doing. So I think that's really, really, really important to listen to the youth, because they could tell you something that could really shape and change your life. Because if that young lady didn't get that help, there's no telling where she may have been. All it takes is somebody to listen to her.
And I got another bonus quote.
You got another? What you got for us?
This is actually, we talked about Garth Brooks earlier.
You got a Garth Brooks quote?
But yeah, he sings this song, and in this song he says, some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. And I think about that when I think about my career, because there were so many times where I would interview for a job, and I would pray that I need this job. I really need, and I didn't get it. And I was so disappointed, so bummed. I was like, man, that was what I needed. But if I would have gotten that position, because I thought I needed it, I thought it was right for me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. Yeah. And there's a reason I didn't get that position, and it's so that I could be here now doing what I'm doing. And I always think about that line from that song, because I'm not here because of me, I'm here because somebody else put me here.
You should have said Slick Rick, man. Lottie Dottie. He likes to party.
Yeah. Bother nobody.
Yeah, that's right, man. No, but, I like that, man. Thank you. My positive point is from Albert Einstein. And he says, try not to become a man of success, but rather try to be a man of value. I think what you're doing is very important. I always admire people who want to take their careers to help other people. And a lot of that was from your experiences and what you've said. We had our lunch. I was very observant of how you were saying how what you went through is what led you to wanting to help people. And we always think success is just wanting to be seen and having this and having that. But sometimes success, to me, is helping people, being a person of value. We always think, oh, I got to be the biggest rap star, got to be the biggest movie star. That's success. Sometimes success is helping people.
Yeah, when I was campaigning, I was at I think it was the African American Festival downtown here.
Yeah.
And I had a lady come up to me and she says, "Hey, I want you to meet a young lady whose life you saved." And it was her granddaughter.
Wow.
Because I had granted custody of her granddaughter to her because there were some concerning issues with her granddaughter's mom. And I just never thought about it like that, And it kind of, I walked around after that, and it kind of took me a little while to process it. And I went back and I found her, and I was like, you know what? Thank you for telling me that, because we don't hear about a lot of the good, positive things that happen as a result of what we do. A lot of times all we know is what happens in court, and then after that we don't know what happens. So it was very nice to have somebody come up and say that. She didn't have to say that, but she took the time to make sure I knew that something I did made a difference to somebody, and I really appreciated that.
I didn't get to ask you this on the second portion, but I was going to ask you, what's the most rewarding part of your job? And I think you answered it, just positive responses, but what's the most rewarding part of being a judge?
To me, it's so when we can put kids back into their home safely. For example, in a dependency, neglect, and abuse case, when kids are taken out of a home because there's allegations of neglect and abuse, the parents are given a certain amount of time to try to resolve the issues that cause the removal. So whether it be substance abuse issues and addiction, whether it be domestic violence issues, anger issues, they can go through treatment and all these other things. And if they're able to successfully complete those things and the child can be returned safely to them, then we get to reunite a family. And that's great, because the alternative is that the child is either put into the custody of a third party, or the parental rights are permanently severed, and then the child is no longer considered their child by law and can be adopted and whatnot. But so it's always better if we can put the kids back in the home successfully. Also, when you have a kid who keeps coming back into court because they're getting in trouble with the law, and you finally find something that connects and works, whether it be a mentoring program or something that connects and works with that kid, and that kid doesn't come back anymore. Some of the kids, you get to know.
Yeah.
And so it's sad because you don't get to see them again, but at the same time, it's because you know that they've gotten whatever they needed to be able to stay out of trouble. So that's probably the best thing is.
Sounds like a pretty good reward to me.
Yeah.
So, any last shout outs, Matt, before we get out of here? You got any people you want to shout out? Family, friends?
Just my wife and my kids, my grandson Isaac.
Okay.
So he's gonna be a year next month. That's pretty cool. He's a little ball of energy. He's gonna be walking pretty soon. So
it'll come by quicker than you know it. Then I'll be graduating high school.
Yep. And my friend's family, his mom and dad, something we didn't talk about, but I got out of my home whenever I was about 13 and started living with my friend's family. So they kind of adopted me almost. So I appreciate the help that they gave me. And of course, my mom and my brother and my sister. My mom loved me enough to let me go.
Good.
To get out of that situation. Of course, I've always maintained contact with her my whole life, but she let me move out of my home and move in with my friend's family to get me away from the situation that was going on.
Yeah.
So, and that was a tough choice for her, but she did it out of love. So
I know she's proud, man. I know she's proud. Cause you're the judge, man. You man in charge.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout out to the Say What You Mean podcast, all the viewers, and shout out to the graduates. We had a lot of graduates this past weekend, a lot of graduates from high school, So shout out to you guys. Congratulations. Shout out to Chase, Dakota, Jeremy, Zach, Matt. Thank you for being on the show once again. Episode 199. I don't know what I'm doing for my 200th, so I'm sorry, y'all. I may get the guys round up again. Chase brought up some good ideas. May have the guys pull up, do something special. But again, thank you guys so much, man. Our 200th episode. We're gonna keep going and going and going. You 199, man.
I know. I couldn't believe it. Man, you guys have almost got 200 episodes in. Man.
I know, man. And we're gonna have plenty more guests.
Yeah.
Plenty more. So again, thank you guys so much. And I didn't say it earlier, but make sure you follow us, SWYM Podcast, on Instagram, youtube.com/Jéan P the MC, JEAMPTHEMC. Y'all know how it goes. ZWorthy68 _Ginger Ninja for Jeremy. And I think that's about it, man. So we will see you guys on the next episode. Jéan P the MC, episode 199. Matt Kreitzer. We'll see you guys next. Peace.
See ya.
Say what you mean what you say. I'm from the 330, where them boys don't play. Say what you mean what you say. I'm from the 330, where them boys don't play. From the northwest to the northeast, say my name once and they know it's me. Southeast to the southwest, no arguments, yeah, I got next, Jéan P.